Hello, everyone. Because the new Legendary Pictures King Kong vs. Godzilla is coming out in just a little bit, I thought I would do, and of course, if you've followed my channel, you know how much I love Godzilla films. So I'm going to do my tier list of the highest ranked Godzilla films, my personal favorites, not based on the actual quality of the film, but my personal love of these films. So a little bit of a suspense here. My personal favorite is not the 1954 original, even though that's a great film. Again, this is not based on the actual quality of the film per se, but my personal love of those films. Now, I grew up with the Showa era films as a little kid, watching them whenever I could on television where they come out. So I have a big thing for the Showa era films, which are kind of the original run in the 60s. So anyway, let's go through it. So let's get something off the start here. So the TriStar film, I'm just gonna move that. I'm kind of putting this. There's no like tier for like outside the tier. I don't think that TriStar Godzilla is a terrible film per se as a kaiju film. It's just not a Godzilla film. It's got, as they call it, Geno Godzilla in name only, because it really has no bearing on Godzilla itself, and it doesn't act like Godzilla or seem like Godzilla. So I'm putting that like in its own tier. But the absolute worst Godzilla film is definitely All Monsters Attack. That's the one with the little kid who's getting bullied, and it's nothing but a bunch of stock footage. It's like on old TV shows when they would run out of ideas and they would have like a clip show of old episodes. So that is definitely, without a doubt, I try to rewatch it. I have the Criterion Collection version of the Showa era films, and it's not watchable, not at all. So we'll kind of go through these kind of in order from that are listed here, but also I'm gonna kind of try to group them and stuff. So this one, the Netflix series, there were three film Netflix series. The let's see the first episode of that was not too bad, and then the second one was kind of okay. The first episode was just a straight up film. It was very sci-fi, very anime heavy, mecha heavy, and stuff like that. The second one got really esoteric and weird with like a lot of like exploration of religion. But the last episode was supposed to have Ghidorah in it. I'm gonna put that as an F. It's one of the worst Godzilla films ever, because Ghidorah is not even an actual creature. He's just like these tentacles that come out of the sky, and it becomes a bunch of gobbledygook with nothing but weird pontification about the meaning of religion and life, but it doesn't connect anything. It doesn't have any actual meaning. It's just a bunch of like random, it's like a bunch of PhD students got really high and are in a room just randomly talking. So let's go through the other ones kind of in the order that they're listed here. So here is Destroy All Monsters. So of course we have to. Now I'm not going to put that as an S-rated film, because as much as it's great. I mean, it has obviously that big huge fight at the end with every monster at the time, but that's really only comes at the very end. The kaiju action is at the very end, and the human stuff is not too bad. There's anything involving the aliens is pretty fun, but like I said, and then the fights in the forest, they don't thrill me as much as the fights in the city for some reason. So a good film, but not this phenomenal thing that everyone makes out to be. Let's see, Invasion. No, this is Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, the next one on the list. And this one I thought is actually kind of dull, to be honest. It introduces Ghidorah, one of the greatest villains of all times in Godzilla, but the film itself, just extremely dull. It does have a Bond girl in there, but I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But other than that, nothing really to recommend it. Okay, so GMK. Godzilla King Ghidorah, Mothra King Ghidorah, GMK All Out Attack or something. That's one of my favorite ones of all time. I think that one's great. It has this awesome scene with this girl who's been attacked by Godzilla and survives, and she's in this hospital room. Spoilers for all these movies. These are old movies. You should have watched them already. And Godzilla, she thinks, is going to come and crush her hospital room, and then he walks right past her. She thinks she's safe, and then his tail swipes past and smacks her room and destroys her. It's just so ironic and stuff. But the film itself, very, very well done. And then I enjoyed the Millennium series. I love the design of that Godzilla. I love Orga. I think that was really cool. I'm gonna put this one as an A film. That is really good. I really enjoy that film. It has one of the greatest lines from the American dub, where they're talking about these new missiles they're going to use on Godzilla, and they say these missiles will go through Godzilla like crap through a goose. Just hysterical. So let's try to get. Let's see. The next one is okay. So this is the Godzilla Mothra Mecha Godzilla. Fun. I think they cheat because the Cosmos girls, unfortunately, after the first couple, the original girls from the 60s Mothra movie, they were not actual twins. I think that's kind of cheesy, but it's got a lot of good stuff, and I'm going to put that as a B. And then this one, the remake, the reboot in the 80s, 85, I think, just called Godzilla, Return of Godzilla, I think it's called. That one's pretty well done. It's very dark, very brooding, but they're trying to go back to the seriousness of the Toho, of the original 54 film. The Gareth Edwards Godzilla is good just because it's so high budget, and when Godzilla is on screen, when he first appears and when he roars, I mean, it is phenomenal. When you're in the theater, you go, oh my God. But they should have focused on Bryan Cranston more. He was great. And the fight scenes, especially towards the end, are so murky and hard to see. It really drags the film down. It could have been a great film. Other than that, it's just kind of okay. There's this Godzilla, the remake of Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, which then this is in, this is a Millennium film. That one's pretty good. This was one that had like a 2-episode arc where I think they kind of had both films kind of tie in together. It's pretty good. It focuses too much on the human characters. We don't really care about your rivalries. So anyway, it's just really good. It's just solid. Shin Godzilla, I'm gonna put this in the S category. I think that even though the design is so bizarre and it doesn't, he's not very traditionally Godzilla-like, it's just such a phenomenal movie. And I actually lived in Japan for 4 years, so I know something of the culture. And while I wasn't there when this happened, I know that the Fukushima reactor incident with the tidal wave that destroyed the Fukushima plant, and the government's response to that, which was atrocious, is really, it's a metaphor for that whole thing. And I know, having lived in Japan and heard people talk about their frustrations with the government, the way things play out, I could see it as, that's why that movie's so good, is because you can watch it as just a film which has Godzilla in it, and the human stuff isn't just filler. It's the point of that movie, and it's really, really well done. When Godzilla does go ballistic and go nuclear, or towards the end of that film, it is absolutely phenomenal. Probably one of the best scenes ever in any of the Godzilla films. Which brings us to the next one, Godzilla vs. Destroyer. I'm also putting into S tier. Just for that last scene where Godzilla melts down, it's my actual favorite scene of all the Godzilla movies. It's so poignant with the music playing, and you just feel like this compassion for this horrible creature that's destroyed so many lives, but you really feel it. And Destroyer, I think, is a very great bad guy. He's just so imposing. The tie-ins with the original, it was originally supposed to be the end of the Godzilla series, so they really pulled out all the stops. That is a phenomenal film. And then the next one is Gigan, Godzilla vs. Gigan, and I enjoy this. I think Gigan is a really great character. It has some weird humor with the beatnik, kind of making fun of the beatnik generation. I guess it was, at the time, was taking over. The enemies are alien cockroaches disguised as humans. It's kind of funny because they're just like superimposed cockroaches over the screen, but it's pretty fun. It's pretty well done. Godzilla vs. Ghidorah. This one is a personal thing of mine. God, it's so wacky and weird. I'm going to put it in the B category. I have a personal stake in this film. It's one of the very first Godzilla films I saw as a kid. It's not a great film as far as films go, but it has every filmmaking technique. It's a hand-drawn animation. I think there's stop motion in there. There's everything. They just threw everything at the wall. And I know it's very, very difficult to get drugs in Japan. Not that I tried to get them, but it's, Japan is a drug-free zone. These dudes had to have left the country and done shrooms somewhere and wrote the script and come back because it's so psychedelic. The weird scene in the nightclub with the rave, and there's this bizarre thing where the sludge comes down the steps and leaves this little kitten behind, and it's very, very strange. But Hidra is an interesting bad guy, and I love the idea of pollution itself being the enemy, but as far as the film goes, it's kind of a hot mess. So, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, I love this. This is one of my favorites of the Heisei era. I'm not a big fan of the Heisei era because, for one thing, I think the music is very flat. It's competently done, all those films. They're competent. They're just kind of flat. And I know they got Miki Sagusa, the little girl who has the kind of telekinetic bond or telepathic bond with Godzilla. The girl with the big huge ears and stuff. But this one I enjoy. It has these things called the Dorats, which it's kind of like an alternate history version of how Godzilla or Ghidorah was created. But there's really a great scene, one of the best scenes in Godzilla, where this Japanese army officer is now this big businessman. He met Godzilla when Godzilla was a baby on the island and spared him. And then you think Godzilla's going to spare him in this face-off, but he doesn't. Again, spoilers, you guys should know all this stuff. You should have seen them all. But it's really got some good points to it. And the action is really, really good. So since we're going in order here, I guess it's time to go ahead and reveal my number one Godzilla film of all time is the original Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. So again, not the greatest of films, probably not, from a technical level, from a story level, not the greatest of Godzilla films, but my personal favorite, one of the very first things I saw when I was a kid, and I absolutely love this film in so many ways. It's the action is great, the human story is them. It reminds me of like I think James Bond was popular at the time. It reminds me of like You Only Live Twice, with these crazy aliens that are actually gorilla kind of aliens in disguise, and it's just wacky fun the whole way through. And the fight scenes are just absolutely brutal and phenomenal. Godzilla gets like blood spurting out of his his neck and stuff. It's just crazy. King Caesar, maybe not the greatest of Godzilla characters, but I just absolutely love the original Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, my personal favorite. So we'll go through the rest of these. The Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla kind of reboot in the Heisei era, with the one with Rodan, where Rodan does like his own version of Mothra's Sacrifice. Pretty good film. I'm going to put that in the B category. It's not bad. Godzilla versus Megaguirus. A lot of people don't like this film. I don't get it. I for one enjoy. I'm going to put that in maybe in the A category. Yeah, I think I will. Enjoyable film. I think it's a different, unique enemy for Godzilla to fight. He has to fight a swarm of creatures, and Megaguirus has a pretty interesting design. The black hole cannon is a pretty interesting design. So really, really cool. Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. What can we say? Aside from the really cool design of Space Godzilla, it's an absolutely god-awful, terrible movie. I mean, they didn't spend any money on this movie. The special effects are just horrendous. The story's horrendous. The baby Godzilla is horrendous. Godzilla versus Ebirah also is... Oh, man. I'm going to put that into the F column, I think, maybe. That is pretty... I'll put it in the D column. Ooh, that's pretty bad. There's not much of a plot. No, it's going into F. It was pretty terrible. Ebirah is also not a very interesting villain. So, what can I say? That one's pretty bad. King of the Monsters. The last film before this new one. I'm going to put this in the S tier. I know the story is maybe not... the human story is actually terrible. It's and especially, I'm not really into the environment stuff, and they always make the environmentalists out in American films to be kind of eco-terrorists. I think it's a terrible plot. I didn't care about anybody. I wanted them all to die, all the human characters. But it's basically... destroy all monsters with a huge American movie budget. The way the creatures are realized, especially King Ghidorah, is absolutely phenomenal. The only problem is, again, the human story. They keep cutting back to the humans. If you watch the original Showa films, when the monster fights happen, they only cut to the humans for maybe a reaction shot here and there. But the humans are totally on the sideline, which is the way it should be. When you get to the action scenes with the monsters, stick to the monsters. Don't cut back to the people going, "Oh, why didn't you come to my high school graduation?" or something like that. That's BS. We're not here to see the people. We're here to see the damn monsters fighting each other. So some good stuff. The monster action elevates it to that level. Godzilla versus Biollante, like I said, I'm on a different wavelength for most of the fans. I do not like this film at all. I think it's boring as hell. I think Biollante is a boring character. He just sits there because he's a plant. He's literally planted in the ground. Godzilla could just leave him there. I thought Godzilla doesn't even have to fight this monster. He could just walk away. But there's only one really good scene in that film, which is when all the kids who have like psychic powers, little kids are drawing, and they say, "What are you kids drawing?" Because they've all been having the same nightmare, and they all lift up their little hand-drawn crayon drawings of Godzilla at the same time. But other than that, this movie's terribly boring. I don't know why so many fans like it. Final Wars is definitely on the opposite spectrum of that. Maybe the too much action kind of thing, but it's a lot of fun. I want to put this in the A category. It's a hot mess as a film, but and there's tons of monster action. The only problem is that the monster fights are literally sometimes seconds long. I mean, we will have a fight that is maybe 10 seconds in length or something like that, if that. Maybe one shot at a time. But there's so much stuff going on. And the human stuff is, kind of like a faux Matrix kind of thing going on with gun kata and people jumping off of motorcycles. So if you can't do an interesting family drama as the human story, then at least do something wacky. That's why I like Mechagodzilla so much, for one thing. And the original Godzilla versus Mothra, I'm going to put this in the A category just because I'm going to put it in B. It's, so many fans have this in the S tier, but, when I was a kid, you got to remember, I didn't see these things in order. And when I saw these things, I'd seen all these other things where Godzilla was kind of like the big hero and stuff. And then this movie came out, and I was like, Godzilla gets defeated in the end by two worms? I was like, this is ridiculous. Now, I have to admit, though, the suit work, the effects work, the human story is not super distracting. It makes sense. There's a lot, themes about the environment and stuff, and treating the environment, like a spectator sport is not good. But I can't get over the fact that Godzilla would get beat by the two larvae. That just pissed me off to no end. Here's another one, Godzilla versus Megalon. I just rewatched this one, and as an actual film, okay, I'm going to put Godzilla versus Megalon into the, let's see here. I'm going to put it in the A category because it's a terrible film. Again, I say this a lot, but the human story is non-existent to for most part. It's just these guys invent. Now, for one, the reason why this is the first film I ever saw in the Godzilla film I ever saw in the theater. I dragged my dad to see this. He was bored as hell, but he just loved the fact that I loved it so much, and I had such a blast with this film. It was the very first Godzilla film I was able to see in the theater, and I absolutely went bananas for it. Even though years later when you watch it, you're like, ooh, this is bad. But it's got so much, the fight at the, again, this is one of the ones where there's no Godzilla action until the very end, or very little, and then the fight scene at the end is not interrupted by the stupid humans. And Jet Jaguar is a total badass. I love Jet Jaguar. So, yeah, that is why I'm putting it in the A category. And here I think is the 54 original. So of course, with the caveat. Okay, I'm gonna put this up here ahead of this one because this is the caveat because there's two versions. There's the American version with the Raymond Burr who plays Steve Martin, which I can never get over. I kept waiting for him to put the little arrow through his head like Steve Martin, the comedian. But the American version is probably like a B or a C. But the Japanese version is a serious, actual film that's trying to make an actual point. And obviously the effects and everything have been, surpassed, many times over since then. But in the time that it was done, It was very, very, and the black and white cinematography is just great and haunting. There's a scene where these Japanese school children sing this anthem, for the dead people, the people who died, and it is just heartbreaking. And you really see the effects of, the atomic weapons on Japanese culture and stuff in this film. You really feel it's a film that has something to say. That's a film that stands on its own. That's not just a monster movie. But hey, that's what I'm here for, though. Oh, Godzilla raids again. Got Anger's fan favorite, but as a film goes, it's a terribly boring film. There's not much action at all. The fight scenes are few and far between, and they're not that well done. So that one has to go into the D category. And then Invasion of the Astro Monster, I think, which came out after the... But this one is the superior of the original Showa era films with Ghidorah. This one's pretty fun. Has some pretty cool alien fun stuff. Some interesting stuff with the American actor and stuff, and the beautiful Japanese actress that he's with and everything. So, and then the original King Kong versus Godzilla, which I had a blast with. I remember seeing this so many times when I was like, I'm going to put this in the S category. Right now, there's all this stuff with cancel culture with, Dr. Seuss and, portrayals of certain, ethnic groups or something being, seen as being, maybe we should take these films out of circulation or something. This film has, I just rewatched it just now. The portrayal of the islanders in this film is horrendous. I mean, it is so embarrassing. The Japanese actors in this film playing them are the equivalent of wearing blackface. And the way that they portray them, their style of speech and everything, it's so terrible. And I know that there's a lot of kind of prejudice in Japan against people from, like, the southern islands of Japan, like Okinawa and stuff. And there's a lot of, like, looking down on those people. So that part is terrible. But if you can get past that, and the fact that the suits for both, especially for Kong, the suits are really, really, I mean, they look like something you get out of the dollar store or something like that during Halloween. Little kids now have better suits, Halloween costumes than these. But the actual action, the fun level is off the charts. This was the first time we saw these two titans together, and that part of it makes it worth it. If you can just get past the scenes, I mean, they literally give cigarettes to little children on this island to entice them to let them take King Kong away. It's horrendous. There's an actual, but the good, if I'm into the good stuff, and what I care about is the good stuff really good. The bad stuff is bad, but the good stuff is really, really good. So, and we have, I'm sorry, this is the original Mothra. So I'm putting this one up onto B here, B tier. That's the original one. I'm sorry. This is the other one is the Heisei version. So the Showa version is superior to that. I'm going to put that. I'll put it up. I'll put it up on the A tier. Okay, we'll give Mothra a break because Mothra's such an iconic character. It is very, very well done. It's just I still can't get over the fact that the little worms beat him and stuff. And then this one is Son of Godzilla. Having rewatched this on Criterion, it's not as terrible as I remembered it. It's still not good. Little baby Godzilla is stupid. I do not want to see Godzilla have to show his parenting skills. That is pretty bad. But other than that, it's not quite as, there's the Kamakuras, those giant, like, praying mantises. Those are pretty cool. So it has some good stuff in it. It's not a total waste. And then finally, Terror of Mechagodzilla. Oh, here we go again. It keeps re-saying itself. Terror of Mechagodzilla is actually pretty good. It's kind of a forgotten film. I'm going to put it into the... I'm going to put it in the A category. There's the girl who's like an android, who doesn't know she's an android. There's a pretty interesting story to that one. The action's not quite as good as before. That was the very last of the Showa era films, so they were kind of running out of money and creative juice, I think. But I think that the storyline was actually better than some of the other ones. So that's my tier list. Obviously, everybody's got their own version of the Godzilla films. They all mean something different to everybody, but that's why he's been around for. I mean, this is the character aside from James Bond. He's been around longer than James Bond. This is the longest running character. I take that back. Aside from Sherlock Holmes, Godzilla is the longest running single character I think in all of cinema history. So that's a pretty, and it's because it's not just about people in rubber suits. I mean, obviously there's got to be something to this character that has drawn people this many times. It's because he can keep being reinvented. I think that's the real reason why Godzilla is. I'll do a separate story or video all about my thoughts on why Godzilla is so popular. But I think if you look at the style of these films, yeah, they've all got certain similarities, but they're very different from each other. The '54 Godzilla is completely different from, for example, Final Wars. I mean, they're totally on different spectrums. So that's my thoughts on the Godzilla films and how I ranked them and stuff. So I'd be interested to hear what you think of, what your Godzilla rankings are. And let's hope that the new film is pretty good. Talk to you later.